So we're gonna meet next Monday, right?
I'd like to call
Yeah,
this
same thing.
meeting of the Ellsworth Planning Board to order, September 6, 2017, 7 o'clock. Would the members please introduce themselves?
I'm Mike Howie.
Darrell Wilson.
John DeLab.
John Fink.
Jim Barkhouse.
Roger Desai.
Thank you. The first item of business is the adoption of the minutes from the 2nd of August. Is someone prepared to make a motion regarding the minutes?
Yeah, so she updated this TRT memo.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any corrections or additions
I
to the
second.
minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of adoption of the minutes? Thank you. The next item of business is a preliminary plan for a modification to an approved subdivision plan and the creation of a minor subdivision and of a major site use development plan titled Our Way Development, Holt Industrial Park Amendment for Danny J. and Teresa Quinlan. The proposal is to split a 2.65 acre park. I'm sorry, there was a request to shift the order,
Yes.
and I'm just blindly reading the minutes.
You almost
So-
got through it too.
And this is by the person representing both applicants, so I'm inclined to grant his request. In that case, the first item of business will be preliminary plan for a major subdivision entitled The Village for Roy Light. Leets or Lights?
Please.
Leets. The proposal is to create a 12-lot cluster land subdivision off the Bucksport Road and the Atlantic Highway, located on a 148-acre parcel, tax map 46, lot 19 in the drinking water zone. Is someone representing the applicant, please?
Stephen Salisbury.
So go ahead and tell us about it.
We're proposing to do these 12 building lots with a new access road coming onto Atlantic Highway in a cluster subdivision type of format, making the lots that will be conveyed to the individual owners small, typically 10 to 13,000 square feet in size, in exchange for a large open common area, which will not be developed in the future, to equalize the 2-acre minimum lot size requirement in that drinking water zone. We've designed the road to come in from Atlantic Highway, like I said. We made a change in the plans to access the water line on the Bucksport Road and created a split between lots 3 and 4, which also be a small common area owned by the homeowners for accessing the electric and the water line. Chip Haskell's here beside me. He's the engineer who designed the road and the water line and the stormwater system. If you have any questions about the stormwater and the runoff, he can answer those questions. The only thing left that came out of the TRT review was some modifications to our homeowners agreement to strengthen the language about the stormwater maintenance, which we will do for the next meeting.
So the next meeting will have a different homeowners agreement.
Yes.
Questions from the board for the applicant?
Steve, between lots 3 and 4, that common area you talked about, would that driveway be removed?
Yeah, so it'll be landscaped and discontinued. There'll be no access off Route 1.
So you're requesting a waiver from the minimum lot size, is that?
I don't know if we need a waiver particularly, because we're applying under the cluster section of the subdivision ordinance.
Yeah, so, because that is specifically constructed to allow smaller lot size in exchange for dedicated open space or community space, so that's the trade-off. Is a part of a portion of the lot is forever not developed.
How is that implemented? that it's never to be developed? How is the common area defined?
That's in the homeowner's documents as well as the plan. And the documents will spell out it's no longer to be developed. They all will be owners in 1/12
Okay.
interest
Yeah, I saw that
of that
part.
common area.
What about are there any use restrictions for that?
Other than not developing it, no.
And so the boundaries that are on the plan are gonna be the permanent boundaries of that common?
Yes,
The language says something about, future development in or beyond the subdivision area.
yeah, we,
What do you mean when he said beyond?
well, we contemplate maybe future development along the access road and to the north of the access road, but not in the common area,
Okay,
On the remaining land?
on the remaining land.
Okay.
He's got another 100 acres or more, actually.
so those comments were meant to say, I could go and do more here.
We can do more there. We put the owners of those 12 lots on notice. There probably will be future development,
Okay,
because those will be the first people here protesting future development. So
In fact, I believe that agreement prohibits them from,
actually saying anything about it,
Yes.
yes.
and they're on notices,
Mhm.
they get all that.
Yeah,
I also recall that there was a thing on the common area that development could be allowed with city approval.
yes. I don't know what that might foretake, just leaving options open for the homeowners in the future.
Well, it seems that would be a violation of the cluster subdivision requirements.
Well, what if they wanted to put a trail or something in, whatever, or a playground or something, or whatever might need planning board approval in the future on the site?
Suppose they
Plan.
decided to subdivide that,
That would be prohibited,
would it?
unless you change the zoning.
I don't think it's the zoning, it would be the cluster subdivision requirement.
Yeah, but what if the city reduced the zoning in the future to half-acre lots or something like that, for instance?
I don't think that would, this would
Then
be,
they could amend the subdivision.
what,
no, it's a cluster sub, unless the cluster subdivision requirements were changed.
Yeah, that would have to change as well.
what are the requirements for common area for cluster subdivision? Where does it say?
I believe it's, we're looking more
40%?
at open space and recreation type of use or agricultural.
Is there a percentage, is there a size?
Well, yeah, so they have to, at the end of the project, it has to be the same density than if they built to the minimum lot size. So
Oh.
the whole project itself, can we close the door, Steve?
So that's why it's that 20 acres then?
Correct. So that's the first thing, is you can diverge from all the dimensional requirements with the exception of the height, but you still need the same density at the end per acre,
So if I took the 12 units and I made them fit into that zone,
Correct.
that would be the parcel overall size.
Correct.
And then I can just condense all those residential units into whatever size I want.
To
And
a
leave
certain
the rest of
limit,
it as
yeah.
common space.
Correct. That's the general idea, yeah.
So you can't add more units there because the common space will never get bigger.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, I've never heard the argument if these standards were relaxed, what you would do for it. But I believe that this language is in your section 7. So the subdivision ordinance is chapter 28. It's located in section 7. I am very fully aware, Mr. DeLeo. And it's, and it talks about, do you know the section I quoted you last time,
Yes.
Steve? What is it?
Oh,
Oh, you don't
I
remember the
don't
numbers?
remember what it is verbatim.
Minor subdivision?
There's a section that explains in there, plus it's under 12.9.
Okay.
And that's about as far as it goes. It does say the plan shall indicate location of all the proposed road structure, parking lots, footpath, and common open space. Really,
Okay.
the idea of the remaining land is not to build on it, but to maybe have uses of less intensity that can benefit all the people in that subdivision. The idea behind cluster is you're building less pavement, less road,
Okay.
and usually you have less stormwater, so you have also less expenses to the developer.
So there's no really hard restrictions on use of that space. They could cut trails through it, they could.
It's
and it-
not development per se, it wouldn't be structures. It would
Okay.
be, well, it could be a small accessory, a shed, a little, something if they wanted to do a common, some type of garden or
Would
whatever,
it be
but,
able to stay in tree growth?
what's the question?
Would it be able to stay in tree growth?
Yes, I would suppose so.
Well, that piece would have to be over 10 acres.
Oh,
Yeah.
It is.
Is it over 10 acres?
Mm-hmm.
The
So they
homeowners
could-
have to get together and file a management plan and
But
declare their work.
just, I mean, it's a hypothetical question. I'm trying to understand what the common area can become as the residents decide, I want a skate park or motocross track or, you know, a bird observatory. As long as there's no structure.
If it's under tree growth, though, there has to be at some point a commercial harvest under current rules.
All right,
So, again, under the management of the forester, the plan drawn up by the forest department,
okay.
there is a mandate for that.
But isn't basically the purpose behind allowing smaller lots and having a common area that is not be developed? I mean, it
Open
seems
space
like,
and recreation is what usually we see, yeah.
The other question I had from that same section, it says, basic requirements, number 6 and 7. Both of them say, in cluster developments, all dwelling units should be connected to a common water supply. And then it also says, all dwelling units should be constructed to a public sewer system or to a central collection and treatment system. So the plans are, you put test pits on each lot, right?
Yes, with restrictions.
So they're really
to make
not,
For a reserve area.
they're not really doing a central collection system?
So I'm gonna let Dwight answer that.
Yeah, we have, I'm not aware of any cluster subdivision we've done in a rural area that has this collection system. Each lot has their own system.
Okay,
Were they done under that requirement of a central collection system?
What was that, John?
In other words, at the time those clusters were done, was that requirement in there?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think we changed that definition
It's
since
never
I've been
changed.
there.
You just approved the cluster subdivision on Outer Main Street,
yeah,
across from the highway garage.
Yeah,
They
okay.
have city water, but private sewers on each lot.
yeah.
So the idea here is that, in this case, they have public water. A lot of time, the requirement for the 20,000 square feet is to make sure that you can put a septic system and a backup if you had to, and be 100 feet away from all wells. In this
Oh,
case, there are
okay.
no wells.
All right,
So the idea is that you made provision, I believe, Steve, to have 2 sites, I believe, on each lot?
Yes,
We require.
So what they've done is they've demonstrated that the soil would be able to have a replacement septic system on each of the lot.
Steve, on lot 1, there's no test pits? Is that just missed?
yeah, that had to be amended because we took that 60 feet between lots 3 and 4, and I'm waiting for the new test pits to come back from the soil scientist.
Thank you.
I noticed that there were septic system plans for some of the lots, but not all of them.
Just, yeah, he built the house under construction on lot 4, that we have a design for. The rest of them are just preliminary soil tests.
So the house is put on
The
the
preliminary soil test tells you what you can put in the
Mhm.
system.
So are we trying to say okay to not having the central public system as an amendment or as a exception?
That's an interesting question, isn't it? The planning board has allowed this previously.
Mm-hmm.
There was a principle of law that if you make an error, you're not obligated to continue the error.
Right.
It's be up to the board to decide what to do in this case. Now,
Coming back to the cluster development, as far as setbacks between lots, I mean, do those standards, are they all waived as well as far as, so you just,
No. So if you go into the other section that pertains to clusters is at the beginning of the Article 28 under the definitions. And that talks to what can be relaxed. So if you go under subdivision on, maybe I'm, sorry, it's under cluster subdivision. The definition is called cluster subdivision. It says a subdivision in which the lot sizes are reduced below those normally required in the zoning district, in which the development is located in return for the provision of permanent open space, so that says it's clearly permanent open space, owned in common by lot unit owners, the city, or a land conservation organization. So I think it's clear here that it has to be permanent open space. It cannot be, and then, what section were we in a few seconds ago?
12.9.
12.9.
It talks about the net residential density. It talks somewhere about what you can reduce and what you cannot reduce. Let me see if I can find it while you continue.
It says, to this end, the layout and dimensional requirements of the land use ordinance may be altered without restriction.
Oh, it's right there. Yep.
So that setback's a restriction, right? So it can be altered.
and if you're just looking at the drink water
Oh, but it
minimum
says
setback standards, I mean, they're,
all the requirements and standards of these regulations except those dealing with lot layout and dimensions.
Yep, that's correct then.
So, yeah, the setbacks are all up for grabs.
So,
But
now, given the requirement in the ordinance for permanent open space, speaking for myself, I would be more comfortable if those restrictions or covenants would reflect that and not say that it can be developed with permission of the city. Because the city couldn't give the permission given the wording of the ordinance.
Okay, I'm sure we can change that.
and then regarding the setbacks, I think the question is, was it the intent of the applicant to meet the setbacks? Because I thought that the only thing that they were looking at relaxing was the size of the lot. Everything else was going to be met. Is that correct, Steve?
No, I was looking to relax the drinking water setbacks, which are eat up that whole 100-foot lot.
So I think the question is, for the next meeting, a proposal that what exactly is going to be relaxed and by how much, so that there's a set kind of rules, so people know what they're gonna be doing or
we
what's.
will table, Steve.
Okay.
I wasn't.
I think that's my comment, is the quarter acre lots are small. And that's, when you look at the setback requirements, I think the width of the building's 58 feet. The geometry comes to finish it for me.
In that zone, yeah.
The only setback I imposed on myself is a 30-foot setback from the rear boundary line by covenant to protect the septic systems.
So on the Bucksport Road is considered the rear line.
It would in this case, yeah, because we're building a new road.
Just seems like it would be prudent to have some type of setback on the sidelines to keep somebody from building right on, within 6 inch.
putting a
Also
shed.
for fire protection too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now I'm confused. I thought I read someplace these were gonna be rentals. No?
Well, that's on the application, Steve.
That's where I wasn't sure, because I thought I saw
I read
that in
that.
there. But,
It's on page 2 on the.
so you're gonna sell them as,
Excuse me, development information. It says proposed use of development, 12-lot subdivision, mini home rental housing.
I'll have to change that.
oh, okay. I knew I saw someplace there, John.
Had a sticky note on that one. I would ask the code, see that, on the map, it says it's a 200-foot sight distance from Route 1 to, I'm guessing, the middle of Village Way. Does that meet the sight distance requirements for that speed zone?
Oh, that's not the site distance from Atlantic Highway up Bucksport or down Bucksport.
No, it's from the intersection of the new road to the
From
intersection
Atlantic
of Atlantic Highway and Route 1.
Right, so is there, according to, is there 200 feet sight distance as you're coming out Village Way, you're gonna take a left towards Route 1? Is that what you're saying, Steve?
Yes. I mean, people are gonna be decelerating, coming towards the Bucksport Road and just starting to accelerate going out Atlantic Highway right there.
Right, but
Sure.
what would be the required sight distance for,
I would assume Atlantic Highway is probably, I would assume that's probably 25, maybe that's 45, you know?
That's a tight turn.
I would say it's an unposted 25,
Yeah.
It's a tight turn, you can't take that at 45.
but so what's the
Well, it's
required sight distance for a 25 mile an hour zone?
It's 10 miles.
250.
That seems to be an issue.
So you're keeping Village Way as a private road? Or do you tend to?
For now, but we're gonna reserve the right maybe to dedicate it to the city at some point.
And maintenance is gonna be paid, divided up by the residents, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question? The side distance, John, of 200, you can't go look any further because that's an intersection.
And what we're saying is that
So you-
road could have been moved down the other way.
The what?
Village Way could be moved further from the Bangor Road, I mean, from the Bucksport Road. Right, is that what,
Correct, but how the side distance happens, if you're at an intersection, that means that
You're trying to heat up.
my concern would be people coming off of the Bucksport Road onto Atlantic Highway and then having to negotiate intersection 200 feet right around the corner from them. Because they're coming off of Bucksport Road from 55, maybe they'll get in the turn lane and slow down. That 200 works both ways.
because they
Not-
don't come to a stop at the intersection.
Not only people
Correct.
pulling out, but people coming at it.
Correct.
Because to knock it down to 25 miles an hour right as soon as you turn, that's a tall order. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, I'm sure, but
She would like the AC back on.
Could you just
Turn that
turn
knob.
that?
Yeah,
Typically
Yep.
at that point, I mean,
there you go.
Well, you turned it up.
You're the one that turned it off.
Yeah, I didn't see it as an issue.
time they're right next to intersections.
Oh, yeah.
So by the verbiage in the remaining land, that whole corner right there could be, what is the use of that 1.14 acres? Could that be developed into something?
Yes,
Met
in
the
the
minimum
future.
lot size? You wouldn't put quarter acre units there, would you?
Yeah, we might continue this concept down the road and fill those in.
And then put more common area against
Somewhere.
those? Somewhere? Okay.
Steve, I'm familiar with this lot. Can you explain, I think there's an existing old logging road right there off the Bucksport Road.
Yes.
Maybe just explain why you didn't route access that way and decided to go through Atlantic Highway.
Well, we were going to, but the DOT says, oh, by the way, we took your rights away and because of access restrictions. Disallowed our request to use that for residential access.
So you would request like a road entrance?
Mm-hmm.
DOT's had that restriction in that area for years. And there's other people who've tried to get road access there, and DOT has denied it. So it's not just for this project.
Further reaction from the planning board?
Steve, on page 14 on the vegetated buffers, 1B1, you talk about the 25 by 50 foot square
Yep.
area. I think you mean 1,250 square feet instead of 2,500 square feet.
Yeah, I guess my math was, either gotta change the 25 by 50 to 50 by 50, or change the square footage. We're gonna change that section anyway, so,
That's standard right out of DEP's deed restriction.
I was just wondering too, I mean, maybe the board has seen this before, but, I mean, this is the first time I've seen an area set out as a natural buffer area, which apparently has to do with stormwater.
yes. Well, plus keeping the open space to meet the lot density requirement.
Is the natural buffer area just basically an area for the water to flow through
Exactly.
and slow it down and make sure
Yeah.
it's, because you have requirements that it stays vegetated and,
Exactly. You'll see there's two of them actually located on the plan, one at each end of the site there.
Oh, these are natural buffer areas,
Yeah,
yes.
and those are exactly stormwater treatment buffers. And they're sized for the stormwater that's draining towards them. And what happens is we're ditching them, towards those buffers, and then we have what we call a level spreader. Water goes into those, spreads it out, slows it down, and sends it over the wooded buffer itself.
We started that at the Phillips and Dumont subdivision about 12, 13 years ago. That's probably the first one we had here of the kind of like,
has it worked out to how it was expected?
I can't answer that. I have not done an inspection.
So is a natural buffer area basically a city requirement or a DEP requirement or?
It's a city requirement. City falls back on DEP requirements as well, and that is a standard DEP best management practice for treating stormwater.
Any other questions from the board?
I had a question about the TRT. There was a note about declaration of covenants. Has that been resolved?
So what they need to do is we had asked that they add the stormwater information in the covenants, and everything did not get transferred, so there was a bit of discrepancy between the two documents, between what's in the maintenance plan for stormwater and what's in the covenants, but they will make sure that that's all lined up for the next meeting.
Okay.
This is a public hearing. Any member of the public may comment on this matter. I ask that before you speak, you get recognized by the chair and then go up to the podium and state your name for the record. Does anyone wish to speak? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. What would the board like to do at this point? Where our purpose this evening is to find whether or not this plan is complete.
I guess the one question I had was about the, the public sewer or central collection part. Do they need some sort of waiver for that? For that particular section? Do we need to address that in some way?
The question is whether it can be waived.
I believe that it can be based on the circumstances, but the question is do they have to submit that as part of the completeness?
If a waiver were granted, then they wouldn't have to, would
Well,
they? Well, I'm just
okay,
saying.
poof, yeah, that goes away if we.
But if it is required, then we have the information on sewage disposal, it's just not correct by the ordinance. And we would expect next time on the final that it show the central collection. But that would require an engineered system, if I'm not mistaken, yes?
Yeah, I don't know that we
It
want to
would be very
require.
complicated to do.
I don't-
Yeah.
In my mind, Daryl, when I think of a centralized collection system, I think of everything going to a lift station or a pump station,
Right,
and going to a sewer. We don't have public facilities there,
there's nothing
you
to,
know, so you could go to an extreme side and say they're gonna put in their own mini treatment system, or you could say, as John said, you have to have a large engineered system. But you go with a large engineered system, it fails, and one of those properties, every home is gonna be down. You stay with a single system that's already has a replacement system pad designed for it, you know, the likelihood
And
is.
these are not large homes with
Exactly what I was
multiple, with
gonna say.
multiple bedrooms either. I was amused, by the way, on the showing the plan for the floor plan for the house. It's
Yes.
one-bedroom house, right?
That's one model. That is, the one that's being constructed is a two-bedroom.
Okay, well, the one-bedroom had a master bedroom. It can't be a master bedroom, there's only one.
Well, that's a marketing thing. Sounds
Showing it
better.
in its best light.
I was just amused.
Does it have an ensuite?
That's a good
Couldn't
question.
it then be a master?
It could, I suppose, except, well, you'll have to look at it very carefully. Okay.
so for as far as waivers, it says where the board makes written findings of fact that there are special circumstances of a particular lot proposed to be subdivided, it may waive portions of the submission requirements unless otherwise indicated in the regulations.
But they did submit all the information, it's just not necessarily meeting standard, but they
Yeah.
did submit all the information
Okay,
necessary.
well, I guess I'm inclined by the testimony of the way the sewer system is, there's gonna be public water, and you don't need to separate them, and the space requirements collapse.
I would say that in this case, it certainly doesn't make sense.
So do we grant them this waiver then for this?
You could do that, we could do that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant this
Do you want
application.
to fold that into completeness then?
Unless there's another issue that board members wanna include, I am thinking that this is complete the way it is.
I think we should find other issues so we can make your motion very complicated.
Okay. Is there anything else that you guys want me to include in that motion?
Was there something with the lot dimensions that you were gonna submit?
Oh, I asked Steve to put that in a small table
Okay.
the next month, so we know what
But-
to decide.
But
Because typically, we have never given any consideration for reducing the setbacks on these, but we've never had 10,000 square foot lots before. We've always had lots a little bit bigger. So, if we have a table, then everyone's gonna know, exactly what they're gonna have, it's gonna be on their subdivision plan.
Yeah, and I'll put them in the covenants too.
Yeah, covenants and, well, no one ever reads the deed covenants anyway, so.
No,
It'd be good if
Of
they
course,
did.
every buyer knows what's in there.
Well, how does the city deal with setbacks in the urban zone, in the downtown zone? Obviously, I mean, you may have a 10,000 square foot lot
We don't have
downtown.
any setbacks in the downtown zone.
Downtown,
Zero.
no side setbacks or anything?
Yeah, it's pretty much up.
Just look at Main
You
Street.
can, you can build a set of stairs right across.
Yeah.
But again, I just want to say that, beside giving the applicant guidance for the next meeting, so when you do make a decision on the performance standard, this application is definitely complete. In the sense, I mean, I'm not saying it's complete. Everything seems to be there, and that, you
Okay.
know,
But it does not have to be something we would approve.
Okay,
It's just
good.
that the information is there.
It's all intact.
and
Yeah.
just some guidance to make sure that they will be approved next month if they come back towards what needs to really be added.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the preliminary plan for a major subdivision titled The Village for Roy Leeds, the proposal to create 12-lot cluster land subdivision off the Bucksport Road and Atlantic Highway on this 148-acre parcel in the drinking water zone, we find that the application is complete.
And the waiver, do you want to throw that in?
And this also includes a waiver of the cluster development requirement for public sewer or central collection based on the special circumstances of this project.
And then it does not harm the,
And it has no, it does not affect the public health or safety by granting that waiver.
is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please? Opposed? No.
John, did you vote? Delia?
Oh, hold on. How many more? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No.
Oh, you're,
nothing.
okay, I'm sorry.
I can, but I don't think it counts.
It's your participation that counts.
I was wondering why he was voting.
She's anticipating your
Didn't you hear the question, John?
Sorry about that, I forgot.
problem.
So the
Your
expectation
regular
to
alternate.
the applicant would be that table to be added.
that's another animal.
All right.
Hey, Steve?
Hey, what?
I just noticed on the development information, you also have public sewer connection check. On page 2 under development information. I just noticed that. You have public water connection. but-
Yeah, not public sewer.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank
maybe
you.
the applicant was planning to fund the extension of the public sewer.
Doubt that.
Be very generous.
It's a long way.
Next item of business is the preliminary plan for modification to an approved subdivision plan and the creation of a minor subdivision plan and of a major use site development plan entitled Our Way Development, Holt Industrial Park Amendment, Danny J. and Teresa Quinlan. The proposal is to split a 2.65 acre parcel off Bucksport Road, tax map 26 lot 2, into 2 lots, including 1 residential structure, and add 2 apartment units to the existing duplex. And to split a 3.72 acre parcel accessed off Our Way, tax map 26 lot 2-4, into 2 lots, both including a residential structure in the urban zone. Someone representing the applicant, please.
Stephen Salisbury.
Tell us about it.
It's essentially the same as we left it from the last meeting. With a few changes to the plan based on the TRT comments we got back. And this is a dual application for a land subdivision and also a subdivision of the building on lot 1 into 4 residential units.
And do you have evidence that the Meeks property has agreed, or the owner has agreed to the change in right-of-way?
Nothing in writing. We're still working on that.
We will undoubtedly need that for the final.
Okay, could you describe that scenario about the right-of-way and how that exists now but needs to be modified in some way?
Yeah, the existing right-of-way is undefined, just as along the existing road, which got moved. Now we're gonna define the right-of-way by width, and the location's gonna be shown on the map, so there'll be some certainty going forward in the future as to where that right-of-way is. And
So that's gonna be recorded in the deed as far as the right-of-way to the Meeks property then?
yes, they'll get a new deed.
Is there more to that right-of-way than just access to that property? Does it include access to any other abutters or?
Just that one abutter.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't go beyond that property, does it?
No, it is not.
So the right-of-way is gonna be tailored to the existing, or the road that's being proposed then?
The road that now exists.
So that's not gonna get changed, you're just gonna codify that. Is it that it was just never recorded in detail before?
It was not.
Was it mentioned? Does it say that, oh, there's a right-of-way to this property at some point?
That's about all it said.
Okay, so it's very unclear. So do you actually have to delete that or abandon that in some way? To
Yes.
change the deed?
Yep, there'll be a mutual exchange. One making the old one go away in favor of the new one.
And so what's the harm if that doesn't happen? The other one is ill-defined, and then you have this drawing that has this other right-of-way.
Well, so
Is one legal and the other one's not?
if he's showing the right-of-way in a specific location, I guess if they don't come to an agreement,
There's still a right-of-way, right?
there's still a right-of-way, but she can, you know, there's no specific location. I think that may be a moot point in the sense that I think that Mrs. Meeks is in the room tonight. I think that, I don't want to speak for her, but I think there's definitely an interest
Okay, all right, I'll wait.
in coming to an agreement where that would be, so there's more assurance for her, and there's also more assurance for someone that may be looking to purchase the property, you know?
Okay,
So it's not, I don't think it's a bad thing to try to come to an agreement. Now, again, Steve can't do anything, that, there's a line in the plan that could not be there if they don't come to an agreement. That's,
oh, okay. The other thing I got sort of confused about was, you said that we are revising a previous subdivision. Or this is a revision?
Yes,
A revision to a previous subdivision that was approved?
correct.
How long ago was that approved? Do you know?
Back in the middle 80s.
Oh.
There's a copy of it in the application.
Is that where those lot lines get changed?
In part,
Okay.
taking one lot of that subdivision, now making 4 lots.
But that other lot line change was incorporated in that prior subdivision?
No. That extra land in the back, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, is that being transferred in this subdivision, or that existed before in the prior subdivision plan?
That was just a sale to the butter, didn't technically need the planning board's approval.
Okay. But it's captured now as being different from the other final plan?
Yes,
So it's a lot line adjustment kind of thing?
lot line adjustment and more lots on that one particular parcel.
So I guess my question for the city is, the revision of the subdivision, the final subdivision, what rules do you use? The subdivision rules that were in place in the 80s at the time, or now that they've changed the subdivision, do we go back and look at what subdivision rules exist now? Does it erase all the grandfathered items? Do we have to reconsider, like, I don't know, something that wasn't in the subdivision ordinance before now applies?
Such as,
I don't know, setbacks, vegetative buffers, stormwater management. I'm trying to figure out what we need to evaluate in this revision. Because there's so many moving pieces here. There's the building subdivision, there's the land subdivision, and the land subdivision is not just, oh, I'm gonna divide this lot, I'm gonna revise a prior subdivision.
so
So I'm a little
unless there was
confused.
some covenants that addressed some of those dimensional requirements, usually when they do create those new lines, we go with the subdivision that's in effect today. We don't go back to what was in effect in 1980.
Okay,
So really, this is a cleanup exercise.
yeah,
It's-
I see that.
So our interest as the city is these files for this project are very thick, very confused, very convoluted. It's not straightforward what happened, how and when. So right now, our interest is to have something that meets the standards of today in terms of lot sizes, in terms of responding for emergencies, and that's how we've treated it so far.
All right, so you're comfortable with this sort of overall revision? Let's draw a picture of what it needs to be right now.
Yes.
This
So,
snapshot that we have incorporates all the other baggage from
Well-
before and cleans it all up.
so what we're gaining is a road association.
Mhm.
That's a positive thing. What we're gaining is, definitely Mrs. Meeks will be gaining by having if they come to an agreement with a defined location for a right-of-way. So I think there's a lot of gain for Highland safety and welfare. There's things that, we try to touch upon as much as we could. The only thing missing at this point is in the TRT, is that the applicant did demonstrate in the existing condition plan the location of the water lines. It did not demonstrate the location in the proposed plan. We're not demonstrating those locations. It's very convoluted. If you follow those water lines, they go through a building, then serve another building. One from the city water and from a well. So that's going to be cleaned up, hopefully. Hopefully, they're not going to be going through a house, which is not something that we encourage or like at this city. It's not in anyone's best interest. So those are the things that are going to be looked at within the confine of the law and the PUC, actually, for the front lots. We've had a lot of discussion, not with the applicant, just in one of the things, Steve, I didn't see, we don't have the location of the septic systems on that.
Oh, they're existing,
But
Yes.
still, in existing condition, we ask,
yeah.
And it's by asking for the existing condition of the water lines that we figured out there was some issues.
No.
So,
If you're adding units, dwelling units, I would think that affects the size of the septic system, does
so
it
that's
not?
missing is the existing location of the septic, the proposed location, if there's any changes. There's
Well-
also existing a location of the waters are shown, but the proposed location are not shown.
Dwight?
Oh, I reviewed those, John, and I gave a copy to Steve. These designs for these buildings were way higher than what you'd have for residential use, based on what they were using for at that time.
But it's-
So
it
the
still should
septic
be
system
some-
will handle the additional? Well, in this case, it's not additional. Yeah, okay.
But information should still be submitted
Yeah.
and shown.
Do you
If
have-
you're trying to clean this up, we need to clean it up.
Steve, you can check with Dwight for copies of the septic designs, which may help you locate them on the ground.
I have them,
Oh, you have them.
well, to the extent that they have them available.
There is that.
Oh, there, in all honesty, there's a little confusion about what is what with those soil designs, because there was so many put in here on the same lot. They all had the same map and lot number. So you have to do a little research, figure out which one is which.
I've been confused here too, looking at the 1988 map there.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Lot 2 on that 88, like the original whole industrial park map?
Lot 1.
Lot 1, on that map.
That
that's the lot
map is
question.
really confusing. That one.
I just wanted to make sure I was in the right part of the earth here. Got it,
Very last lot.
on the right, to the east. Yeah.
Yep.
So the lot that comes down around behind that, lot 1, sort of to the south of that, underneath, it runs across the back of all 6 of those.
Yes.
Is that where the right-of-way goes to? Or is it the right-of-way to an adjacent?
What right away are you referring to?
The right-of-way to the Meeks property, is the Meeks property just an adjacent lot on Bucksport?
Yes, just an adjacent lot, not part of the whole industrial park.
Okay, so the, what is the name on the very end here?
LGN, LLC, it's the name of the corporation.
Is that so the right-of-way doesn't go to that lot, it has its own access from somewhere?
It's coming off of Route 1 right here. And it says, this is on this map, this is the proposed right-of-way? Or is that the existing?
Just to the Meeks property though, right?
We have gravel drive. So I think they're talking about that.
Talking about Flockamusen Way?
Yeah, so is there, that property behind, is there some access to that already?
Yeah, they have their own frontage on Route 1.
Okay, so this doesn't account for that in any way?
No.
Need any further extension of this?
Nope.
To get to their property?
Not across our property.
Okay.
And if I just may add one piece of information, just so you know, Mrs. Meeks will, the way it's presented, if I understand correctly, she will not be responsible for the maintenance of that road, of the Owl Ring Road.
Okay.
Steve, just from my understanding, I'm looking at the original lot line boundaries. Is this been a series of compromises or acquisitions or exchanges? I mean, these lines are
I'm in the
very
planning
different.
Okay, bye.
Well, the original Lot 1 of the subdivision,
Mhm.
named in the 80s, included all of lots 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So, just so that I'm clear, it seems like there's 3 parts here. There's a modification to an approved subdivision that captures all the lot lines
Mm-hmm.
changes. Creation of a minor subdivision, which is the building going from 2 units to 4 units. Is that the minor subdivision? And then the third, major use site development. What part are we covering with that?
We review the division of a building under site plan, but it's still a subdivision.
Major use, site development,
Mm-hmm.
is the division of the building?
The state of Maine allows the planning board to review the division of a structure
Right.
under site plan if site plan is as stringent as a subdivision, because a subdivision is really meant for land subdivision.
So what is the creation of a minor subdivision plan? Wait,
Under Dwight, it's anything that goes under Dwight is a minor. Everything that comes to the planning board is a major.
okay. So we only have two things to be concerned about, the subdivision plan revision and the major use site development.
So the major use and the minor subdivision work together. They're basically the same thing.
Okay,
As the major use site plan is as stringent, more stringent than the subdivision. The idea why it's listed is they still have to record that plan at the registry of deeds. And it's, make sure they don't forget it's still a subdivision.
Now, I'm going to assume that stormwater was covered in for the original whole lot, Lot 1. Right?
I don't know.
So,
My assumption is it wasn't covered, but they are not adding,
they're not changing it.
they're not adding any more impervious. There's no greater impact on
Oh,
stormwater.
right, okay.
Even with the new units?
No, they're in an existing building.
It's an existing building. It was the retail
Oh,
shop that's
okay.
being
They're
divided.
just doing interiorly
Correct.
structure.
Okay. It's getting easier.
so the road reconstruction is just the same impervious area and it's just gonna be an upgrade to that surface then?
I don't think there's, I mean, Steve can answer that. I don't think there's any proposed reconstruction of that road, is there?
No, the road exists, and it's satisfactory for the uses.
Okay,
It's a private road,
That's right,
and it will stay that way.
stay that way.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the applicant always has the option to reconstruct the road to city standards.
It's more of a driveway.
okay.
Any further questions, comments from the board? In that case, let me open the public hearing. Does anyone wish? Yes, sir, please come up and state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jeffrey Dyer. We are the owner of Forest Ridge Campground, otherwise known as LJN LLC on your map. Just a little bit of history about the boundary changes. That occurred when we purchased the property in 2012 because there was a road that extended off our way that went into the campground itself. It was not, there was a part of that road system that was actually owned by the campground itself. There was 3/4 of an acre on the back portion of the proposed lot changes, which would have made our property boundary up to the garage. So the garage where the Quinlan's garage is located would have been on the campground property. So 3/4 of an acre was removed from that back piece from the campground, and in exchange, we were given a 1/2 of an acre on Highway 1, which included our street sign, over to our other boundary, which is part of the Joy Woods subdivision.
Okay,
That's why you have the boundary changes there.
thank you.
That was helpful, I was struggling with that.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing. So now it's up to the board to do something or we'll be here all night. Mr. Wilson has conjured.
I guess I'm still kind of hung up on this, this right-of-way deed requirement thing. Does this have to be,
Not,
Completed?
I would say not for completeness.
okay,
That
because
we have
a right-of-way exists.
Right, but we will, but since it's shown on the map, on the plot, it has to be agreed to before we can approve it as it's drafted.
In final.
Yeah, but we don't have to deal with it now.
Okay, so the missing, the missing
Yeah.
pieces only appear to be the discrepancy with the existing and the proposed water and sewer.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just items that need to be revised. They exist, they're just in an imperfect form right now.
Yes.
So there's really no completeness issue.
No, we just have to revise the map.
Okay.
to show.
So, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the preliminary plan for a modification to an approved subdivision plan and creation of a minor subdivision plan and of a major use site development plan entitled Our Development Holt Industrial Park Amendment, Agenda Item 2, the board finds that the application is complete under the site development ordinances and the subdivision ordinances.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, please? Okay. Steve, you may go home if you wish.
Great.
Or you can keep us company.
You have no other business.
Well,
Turn the Red
signing
Sox
it-
game on.
Are there any
Hope for the
MyLars
best.
to be signed?
All 19 meetings again?
Okay, then we jump to item 5 called adjournment.
I
Is there
make
a
a
motion to
motion,
adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn our illustrious meeting.
Do we have a second?
I didn't skate.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adjournment, please? Yeah, okay, we're adjourned.
What?